Hey guys, how you doing? I'm TJ with the Original Resonator and Industry Processing Solutions. Today we're going to do a live demonstration. We're doing a Cryo-Sieve demo with some fresh frozen material. What we have is our Resonator OG, and so this is our classic model. What we're really kind of doing this demo for today is a couple clients that we met recently at MJ BizCon, and they traveled out here to where we're at in Sonoma County to check out what we're able to accomplish with the Resonator using fluids like liquid CO2 and also liquid nitrogen. Our most recent launch of our product was the XLS stainless steel model. That's a really unique prospect because it just takes what we've been doing for years to the next level. Not only are we able to work with liquid nitrogen when we have our stainless steel unit, but that's really taking our use cases to another level. So I'm going to replicate some of the advanced techniques that we're able to employ with our stainless model manually today with our OG plastic model. And so kind of without further ado, I'm going to just kind of dive in. I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of just some of the basics around what we're thinking about and using when you're getting set up. And then we're just going to rock right into actually doing a quick process. I do have my freeze dryer pre-frozen. This is not a commercial operation. This is just a demo. So we have smaller units like our scientific harvest rights. That's about the size of a freeze dryer. You can kind of see one right over here. Right, and so that's pre-frozen. We pre-freeze our freeze dryer the same way you preheat an oven. And then we have our CO2 hose hooked up to our liquid nitrogen tank. This is the dewar. This is a 180 liter dewar. It's a high pressure dewar, about 350 PSI. This is just like using dry ice. It's just the liquid version of the solid dry ice. Now what we also have, you can notice these are more smaller, what we just call a tube. Right? This is a tank as opposed to a dewar. And they have, when you see these red collars or the sticker on it says siphon tube, all that's doing is allowing us to pull the liquid CO2 out from the bottom of the tank. And so that way the CO2 comes out in its liquid form. Those of you who are cultivating with CO2, it's the same CO2 gas that you use in your bulk tanks. You just want to pull from the liquid port. And that's what we're able to do when we have our dewars, is we just pull from the liquid port instead of the gas. So while we're live, just FYI, if you guys have any questions that come up, don't hesitate to pop off. I might be answering questions for our in-house demo folks along the way. In fact, if you guys have any questions, now's probably a great time. Fire them off.
Can you use the liquid nitrogen in the plastic tank?
It's a good question. Can we use liquid nitrogen inside of our plastic? No. Liquid CO2 comes out of the tank at about a negative 108 degrees Fahrenheit. The liquid nitrogen is negative 325. It's 3 times as cold. So we could cheat and maybe use a little bit of a squirt, but if you start actually getting it in its liquid form, dumping in there, it's just going to crack your plastic. And so that's one of the major benefits of upgrading to the XLS Pro, is that nitrogen's a game changer in the nature of how we're effectively able to extract trichomes. When you get that product so cold with liquid nitrogen, those trichomes just jump off of the plant. And so it's kind of a unique, how we get an instant extraction.
Yeah, okay. It's a more effective method of extraction.
Yes, absolutely. Plus, there's a lot of other benefits with the nature of just how much easier it is to use liquid nitrogen. We find liquid nitrogen, it's easier to monitor the O2 levels as opposed to the parts per million, like with CO2. OSHA standards say you operate with up to 5,000 parts per million over an 8-hour shift with CO2. It's more about a percentage of oxygen in the room. So with liquid nitrogen, you still have to have concerns over anytime you're using any kind of inert gas with asphyxiation or just monitoring those levels. And so just having a simple monitor like an O2 sensor in your room, or in the case of liquid CO2, just having a parts per million sensor. It's pretty standard in most outfits. And just moving the gas, that gas is heavier than air, so it falls to the floor. It's very easy to manage. Just by having an exhaust port in the room, something like a can fan on or a carbon filter on the floor with a can fan and a flex duct.
Yep. And
then we just opposite corner of where the gas is, we will move the gas across the floor with a floor fan.
Yeah.
And so that's a very easy way of just monitoring and maintaining.
Yeah, good.
Depending the size of the room, you might need a bigger fan.
Yep. Very cool.
Very easily done. And that's one of the cool benefits of the way we use liquid CO2 and liquid nitrogen, more particularly that XLS Pro, able to work with live product and not in a cold room. When you're working with live product, it's really important to maintain the cold chain. And so when we're inside of, like, say, a walk-in freezer, right? That's the way a lot of folks like to do it in certain areas of the world. Like in Canada, for example, that's pretty popular. It'd be similar to just taking this thing and setting it in a deep freezer. Now granted, you're introducing moisture into that equation, whereas with liquid CO2, it's hydrophobic, so it displaces oxygen and it also repels water, right? So that actually plays to our advantage when it comes to doing live extracts. So we can run even a dry product, it doesn't introduce any moisture. So it maintains, it actually makes it easy, it's a good step in helping to eliminate that moisture before you go into the secondary refinement.
So with this process, you could use actually fresh harvested product as well as frozen product as well as dried product.
Nailed it.
Okay.
It's only the nature of using the liquid CO2 and liquid nitrogen that allows us to work with live plants.
Okay.
Without that gas, you don't get that luxury. Now granted, there's traditionally two directions that you can go once you've frozen a plant. Hydrocarbon extraction and ice water extraction.
Yep.
Because they don't have a reaction to that. Hydrocarbon doesn't react to water. Ice water, you're introducing that element so you can work with fresh frozen. So for us, when you're using any gas in a fresh frozen application, the question becomes, at the point where you're pulling your live sift out of the resonator, what direction is it going? If it's going into hydrocarbon, I don't need to do any other additional steps. I can just load into our custom sift stocks directly into a column. Ice water extraction, we can actually just wash the keef the same way, right? But if it's solventless, is really my point. Like with a rosin application, anytime you're going solventless, you need to introduce a freeze dryer into the equation so we can remove the water. With hydrocarbon, you don't need a freeze dryer.
Yep.
So just remember, with any solvent application that you want to source the right freeze dryer for the size of your operation.
Yep.
And what's interesting about freeze drying, so if you focus right here on, this is just a little picture that demonstrates this is the cutting unit. We use the High Life Edition freeze dryer. These are scalable models that do anywhere from 20 pounds a day up to 300 pounds a day. The cost of entry on these is not cheap, but it's a far cry different from a harvest dry. So in that regard, depending on the size of your operation, you might want to consider, what is suited for you. But what's brilliant about what we've kind of conquered is because of our use case, when we do a cryo trim, right? The resonator is a trimming machine too. So if we're doing a dry trim, there's no adverse effect on the flower. All it does is get the exterior of the leaf just brittle enough to fracture and fall from the flower. It's an amazing trimming machine. You'd be like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. You got a question coming in?
Yeah, from Sample Automation, they're wondering, do you have any personal equipment requirements like gloves, etc., based on the temp of your stainless steel models?
That's a good question. Anytime you're working with cold gases like nitrogen or CO2, you do want to be cognizant to not burn yourself. So yes, we'll use protective gloves. It's recommended to use just natural safety gear, an apron, and even goggles. Something that would be, with CO2, it's not as a concern as it is for me with liquid nitrogen. But the way we're using that product, it's generally speaking inside of the chamber. So there really shouldn't be exposure to it in a way that's going to be dangerous unless you're not using it the right way. I might attribute that to user error. So always take care to, be cognizant of when you're working with a gas, just like hydrocarbon, or just like even a rosin press, you're dealing with heat plates and pressure, you want to be cognizant of what tools that you're using. Use the right tool for the right job. And so I pivoted just away from, and I'll close the loop on what I was just talking about, was the fact that the resonator is also a trimming machine. It's a multi-use machine. This thing trims your weed, it makes keef, and it makes bubble hash all in one. So when you're using it as a trimmer, with any dried product, may it be keefing, may it be trimming, you don't need to introduce, unless it's ice water extraction, you don't need to introduce a freeze dryer into the equation because it's already been traditionally dried and cured. And if you're trimming, as soon as we do a wet trim, that's when the asterisk mark applies because we're playing with science. So that's why we introduce freeze drying, and we do what we call live dried cannabis, or our crop to cure process, where we're taking a live fresh frozen product, we're running it through our cryo trim process, and then I load it into a freeze dryer, and 24 hours later, the bud is perfectly dried, cured, and preserved. And so, we've won some awards with our, world famous Emerald Cup. We won first place last year for innovative consumable and demonstrating that product and process. We're launching a brand in California. We have one that's launched out in New York. And you're actually going to be seeing some live drive internationally coming onto the market in your neck of the woods, out in Aussie country. So we got a lot going on. We're just really starting to see momentum pick up around freeze-dried flower, and really the resonators are cornerstone of any operation post-harvest when it comes to trimming your flowers, when it comes to biomass reduction, when it comes to collecting trichomes. And I think that's a good distinction that we'll kind of move into our demo on. Really, we classify anything above 200 microns, we consider biomass reduction, and anything below 200 microns, we consider trichome collection. Trichomes exist on a plant like up to about 500 microns. So when you're skinning the animal, you want every piece of it. Well, that's kind of our methodology. Let's get the most, and every percent counts. Let's diversify our portfolio and our SKUs, and let's make certain that we're effectively using our products, and that's where the resonator's making anything that you're doing downstream more efficient. All right, so today, our primary focus, with all the talk, let's play with some cannabis. We're gonna break out some keef, or some fresh frozen sugar leaf from our deep freezer, and we're gonna run it into the resonator, and then we're gonna load it into our freeze dryer. This keef will be destined for rosin. What I'm gonna do real quickly is I'm going to change out, I'm gonna put, excuse me, I'm gonna take my screen. You see we have removable, washable, replaceable screens. So whatever size you're looking for, you just simply swap it out. You can see this is actually our trim screen that's already installed on a drum, right? It's just a mesh. So when we load our buds in here, the sugar leaf would fall through to the bottom of the chamber. We'd recollect our sugar leaf, which is what we did. It's sitting in this deep freezer here, and then that's what we run when we load into our micron screen after we swap out. So these screens are very easy to clean. In fact, our favorite new way to clean these is using a sonicator. It's pretty awesome. But if you don't have a sonicator, a power washer works fantastic. That's another favorite way to clean these things, because the nature of these hook designs. We got a couple videos on our YouTube channel where we demonstrate how easy it is to clean the machine. The whole thing can just be power washed. Or you can just use good old elbow grease, a little bit of isopropyl 99. Same goes with this. You can use like a 2-gallon bucket for some ISO at the quart. Shake it, and about a minute later, this thing will be clean. Maybe a little finger rub if it's really dirty. We do recommend cleaning your equipment regularly, if not daily. But the resonator makes that so easy to clean, because as we all know, the cleaning is one of the major pain points in any system. Is you have to consider, what does the cleaning look like? So in this circumstance, what I did is I just made a little barrel of my drum. You saw I just kind of did the initial zipper, and you see how it just fits kind of perfectly right over the top of the rim of my drum. So that's installed there. Now I just flip it. I got my zipper just undone slightly, so then I can just kind of walk this around the edge. But generally I like to preload these screens, but in the circumstance where I don't, isn't it kind of nice to see how easy and quick that was to load up? So that's what your screen swap looks like. So I could have easily just gone between, say I want to start with a 200 micron screen, and then say I want to switch to a 75. In this case, this is a 150. What I'd probably recommend is having a second drum behind the scenes, so you can have a drum preloaded, so it's quick as you can unload a drum. You have another one going in, and somebody just loading the material for you. It's really that easy. And then with the drum screen installed, we have a very innovative new way we're doing it with our XLS stainless model, where we have these suspended drum screens. It's made it even easier. If you can imagine it being easier than that. Yes, we've done that. So let me set this to the side. And what we have on our drum, you want to focus up here. This is what we just used was our installation screen, and this is what our, installation zipper, and this is our loading zipper. So in this circumstance, that's kind of perfectly, ready to load. That's how I would situate this. Now, because we're going to be doing a rosin demo, and I'm working with live material, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually employ kind of advanced technique where I'm going to take my CO2 hose, and I'm going to go ahead and, put the lid on. I already got my gas turned on. So I'm going to inject a little bit of CO2 in advance. See the opaque fog? See, that's dry ice. As soon as liquid CO2 comes in contact with the atmosphere, it turns into dry ice. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting a little bit of dry ice into the chamber so I can pre-cool it prior to actually putting material in there. So what that's really doing is, see, with my XLS stainless resonator, we have a jacket on the bottom, and that jacket we can feed with glycol or liquid nitrogen, and that allows us to maintain the optimal temperature when you're working with live extracts. Whereas with the plastic model, that's kind of a way we're able to cheat. So you kind of look in there, you see not only dry ice inside of the bucket, but look at the bottom. So what I'm going for there is, what I want is I want that dry ice to actually come in contact with the sift. So as the sift falls out of the resonator, it comes in contact with that dry ice. And that's just going to help us to maintain the optimal temperature to not have any oxidation prior to loading it directly into the freeze dryer. See what I did there? All right, so now let's get on in here. You can see this is just some standard sugar leaf. This came from after we trimmed with the resonator. You notice there's no smalls in there. This is just a good feedstock of sugar leaf. What's so amazing about resonator trim, okay, it's actually sought after by extractors because we're a bladeless trimmer. We're not using any blades, so it's a byproduct of trimming with the resonator. So when you look at this trim underneath the microscope, there's no chlorophyll or plant particulates sliced up throughout your extract, so it's not leaching chlorophyll into your extract, which you get with standard trim. So this just makes for a premier extraction. So as I noted, here's the resonators ready to get loaded. This is one of the features of a major benefit of the resonator is how easy it is to load. All right. Now what we say is a half a drum. You can look on in there. Half of a drum to 2/3 of a drum, create the optimum tumble. So I could definitely put more material into that. We'd say as much, it's obviously relative to the biomass, but you can, at the OG, you can load about as much as 15 pounds of sugar leaf, or excuse me, this OG with a 5-gallon drum would load about 3 pounds of sugar leaf, whereas with the XL, which has a 20-gallon drum, would load about 15 pounds of sugar leaf.
So 3 pounds in this one.
Correct. 15 pounds in the big one, which at the volume you guys are operating, that's what you're going to be thinking about. So you can see here I'm about a half of a drum. Pretty happy with that. You can kind of get a good visual. All right, so what I'm going to do, and keep in mind this is a 150 micron screen, but check this out. As I close the zipper, you notice that we have the custom zipper catchers, but these are the finest quality monofilament screens on the market. We guarantee our microns within an accuracy of a 1 micron. You won't find a better screen. We use customized YKK zippers, same that firemen use on their fire suits. We actually have them customized for us, so there's an anti-abrasion function on the inside of the zippers to keep resin from collecting on the zipper. But if you ever have a clog with the zipper, just a tiny little squirt of some ISO on your zipper will help you make it move. But you also notice our zipper catcher, so I want to make certain when I'm doing this, I close it all the way so none of the product inside falls out. We want to have the cleanest concentrate that we can. So we've considered every detail with the resonator. All right, so now I get my lid on top. This process happens pretty quick. Now when I'm going for live rosin, you can go to our Instagram page. There's actually a pretty recent post where what we're demonstrating is the quality we're able to achieve in record times. So I can either do a 2-minute, a 5-minute, or a 10-minute extraction with the keef and end up with a superior quality. There's obviously a line where you start going too far, you're introducing too much color. So what I always recommend is when you're working with a lot of material, you kind of do a little color test, if you will. We're looking for the sweet spot. And so what I would recommend, is I would take a certain amount of material. Let's just for easy math, say I got 15 pounds of sugar leaf. I would divide that into 3 piles. I would take 5 pounds, run it for 2 minutes, 5 pounds, run it for 5 pounds, run it for 10 minutes. I'm gonna take those 3 different piles of keef and I'm gonna press after, I'm gonna freeze dry them, and then I'm gonna, if it's live, I'm gonna press them into a rosin press. And then I'm gonna look at the quality and the yield of those 3 different piles, and I'm gonna identify a sweet spot pretty quickly and say, that's my SOP for this strain. Because one person's color, is somebody wants something that they're very happy with, and somebody might actually go for, look, if you're going for 6-star rosin and you're entering into competitions, there's a lot of extra care that goes into that. You can get a premium product, but you're gonna sacrifice a yield. And when it comes to production, it's about that sweet spot of getting a yield in combination with the quality. So that's really all we're doing, is tuning into that. So kind of without further ado, let's go ahead and see what's going on in here. For starters, My internal temperature of my chamber is about 49 degrees right now. So you're gonna notice it's an instant extraction once I'm done talking. All right, so let's just get this going. I'm gonna start my timer so I can be cognizant of what's happening. I'm gonna start injecting gas. Now, temperature is paramount to pressure. So I have a manual control over how much pressure I'm injecting. I don't need to blast a bunch of CO2 in there. I'm using the gas as a freezing agent. What I do is I'll just turn the drum on and let it spin while I'm letting the temperature drop. You notice it's already at 30 degrees. So it usually takes about 30 seconds is all to get to sub-zero. Right now I'm running it in the slow speed, which is about 15, medium is 25, and high is 30. And actually, thank you for commenting, because I do like to run on a higher speed when I'm peaking. Okay. Now there's a line between not needing too much. Now look, I'm already negative. I'm negative 4 degrees, so I'm sub-zero. I'm happy with that. So I'm gonna sit and let the drum spin. It's been only 50 seconds since I started spinning and injecting the gas.
That's Celsius, obviously.
This is Fahrenheit.
Correct. Negative zero.
Yeah, sub-zero.
Sub-zero.
Yeah, just sub-zero across Celsius or Fahrenheit is a good place to be. Now I'll go to negative 200 if I'm doing biomass reduction for hydrocarbon. But we don't like to go that cold on temperatures when we're doing solventless for keef. We actually like to be a little closer to, like when we're trimming, we only do ice cream temperatures, which is between like 0 to 30 degrees. We only go sub-zero with extractions.
Negative 40.
Yeah, so keep in mind, all right, so I did about 50 seconds of gas, like to get to temperature. And so at the 2 minute and 50 second mark, which is about 1 more minute from now, we're gonna pop the drum open and take a look and see inside. You can see kind of the quality that we get in 2 minutes. What I think I'm gonna actually do for you guys is I'm gonna run it for at least 5 minutes, but I wanna stop along the way. And that's something you always have control over. You can stop the resonator. If I'm trimming, is it trimmed enough or I need more? Hey, if I'm keeping, is that the color I'm looking for? Oh, I'm starting to see a tinge of color change, let's stop. So you have full control over because not all biomass is created equal, right?
What's the mesh size on that?
On this particular mesh, I'm using a 150 micron.
Okay.
We find that to be pretty fantastic for getting quality and quantity.
Yep.
It's just a matter of not spinning for too long.
Okay.
It's quite fast.
30 is, yeah.
Just turn it down to medium. Right now with the XLS, I can actually control per, like at 13, 14, 15 RPM up to 50. So I can customize it.
So there's 3 gears in that motor?
Yeah, high, medium, and low is what comes customized on the XL and the OG motors. Yeah. Whereas with our stainless XL motor, we can go from 5 to 50 RPMs, and it's programmable at any stage. It's digital, so you can.
Okay.
27 RPMs.
27,
yeah.
28.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Okay.
We don't do halves.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, cool.
So it's with the XLS, it's programmable. So you can we have an HMI with batch programmability, so we can set the time, temperature, speed. There's so many variables that you have control over. With just a recipe, so you walk and hit a start button and walk away.
Has any hydro shops in Australia ever reached out to stock your stuff?
We supply all over the world. We've been selling these things since 2017.
To hydro shops.
I'd have to get into our account, but yeah, pretty sure we got a pin on our map. We got a world map where everywhere that so if you go look at that,
yeah, okay.
And we've definitely got a presence in Australia.
Yeah, cool.
But we're like the best kept secret. People actually refer to us as their secret weapon because they're like, I don't want people to. On one end, they tell their buddies, but they don't like telling anybody else. So that's why I do all this talking. All right, so we're at the 2 minute mark right now. We just hit 3 minutes and 50 seconds here. So if you notice, let's get a little visual. So that's pretty good quality for what I just did for 2 minutes. All right, so let's run this for 5 minutes.
Does that look
For
pretty?
you guys at home that weren't actually get a good view, let me show you.
Would you call that pretty green, or that's pretty good?
This is good color. I like this color. It is going to start turning greener, but that's that line with, okay, this is a 2 minute sift, and if I press this out, I'm probably going to be pretty happy with it.
Okay.
But you'll see here in just a moment what does 5 look like. In fact, here, let's move this over to the side. So we got a good delineation. All right. So I'm right at the 5-minute mark now. I'm just going to reset. I'm watching the clock. I just do what I call a micro injection to get it back to the ideal temperature, and then I just let it continue to run. So while it's running, do you guys have any questions out there? Anybody got anything they want to fire off? You guys got any questions?
Yeah, Jacob Nectar asked, are you guys cleaning the sift after the spin?
It's a really good question. So it depends on the application. Generally speaking, no. We're going to stop the sift at where we think is the sweet spot. So wherever, like that's what I'm doing now, I'm running at 2 minutes, then I run a 5-minute, and then I run a 10-minute, and I'll press those 3 different piles and find my sweet spot. Now this is so that I can avoid using water, right? Because when I'm using water, you obviously have the ability to separate it with however many screens that you're implementing. Now, for us, there's a couple different advanced techniques that I could utilize. And that's one of the things I was going to get into with you guys here today. I'm not going to demonstrate it on this live demo, but one of my favorite ways to make bubble hash is actually to convert my keef to bubble. So I'll quite literally I'll do it, instead of 6 washes, which is what a lot of people will do, you know, you're running multiple washes for, you know, anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. Everybody has their recipe. You know, it might take you an hour to just run through, you know, one batch, to wash it till, you know, it stops dripping. You know, we say, you know, hit it until you quit it, right? When there's no more, you know, coming, you're like, okay, that's 6 wash, we're done. Because at some point it doesn't become worth chasing after. Yeah. But what I prefer to do is just run keef. I get almost a complete extraction in like 20 minutes. I run in the sift, and then I'll wash the sift out with water right into a bag, a collection of bags. And then I have the benefit of cleaning my sift, which we were talking about earlier, is something that's more of a consideration when you're working with an outdoor product. The outdoor products have dirt flying around and shit in the air that's just going to get on your plant. We don't have as much of that with indoor products. We find that we're able to actually get away with not using water at all a lot more often with indoor as opposed to outdoor. And so when you need water, in this situation today, I'm not going to use it, and I might be in fact, I'm generally speaking pretty happy with the results. On like a 2-minute sift with no water is our favorite application. I get the cream off the top, I take the rest of the bio and I rerun it with a 400 micron screen, and then I take all that sift and I go directly to hydrocarbon. So now I'm actually getting the best of the best off the top, and the rest is going to a live resin, THCA, HTE, you know, crumble, diamond, sauce, you know, whatever your kind of SKU demand is, let you kind of tailor to that. So what I'm really kind of driving at here is, all right, so look, I'm approaching up on the 3 minutes, so grand total of 5 minutes. So we're going to pause. We're going to talk about advanced water technique here in just a second. So that's just another 3 minutes of runtime. And you see, I already took all that sift that was right there and I scooted it over to the side. So what do you think about that color? All right, so this is also going to be strain specific. Yeah. So let's take this, move that to the side again. So now I should have moved it to the other side so I can try to show you the 2 minute. And there's the 5 minutes. So now we're about to see the color again in the middle. Let's run this for a couple more minutes. You see how everything's super cold? That's what I want. So even though I'm not in a cold room right now, I'm maintaining the cold chain. Cold chain preservation, that's the name of the game. Especially with live applications. We don't need to worry about it so much when we're working with dried material, but when it comes to live material, it is critical to maintain the cold chain, because we've ruptured the cellular wall of that plant. So I'm going to reset this again, start. Let's get it spinning. Up. Look at me, user error. I got to put my CO2 hose back on. Forgot to put the hose on before I started it. Do that. All right, back on, everything looking good. Go. A little bit more gas. We'll just give that a couple more minutes.
How do you know what's a good amount to how much carbon dioxide you put in?
The question is, how much CO2 do I put in? The primary goal is paying attention to the temperature, because that temperature is my guideline of what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yep.
Generally speaking, we use about 2 pounds of CO2 per pound of biomass.
Okay.
And just about all of our applications, it seems to work out. It's a pretty dependable number. So, you know, if you're working with 500 pounds, get 1,000 pounds of gas on site.
Yep.
This one tank is 180 liters. That's the equivalent of about 400 pounds of gas. So 2 of those tanks would run about 800 pounds of biomass through it. Depending on where you're sourcing and what your cost is. For us out here, we work with Matheson Gas, and we also work with Air Gas nationally. We get pretty good rates, and we're paying $100-ish. So you shouldn't be spending more than about $1 in gas for every pound that you're processing.
Yep.
Really efficient.
Okay. Cool.
So we're going to let this run for, so I've actually put 5 minutes under this, so I'm going to let it run for just 5 more minutes. You know, for those of you who are kind of catching up, we're just doing 3 different runs. We did a 2-minute, it was actually 2.5-ish, a 5-minute collectively, and then another 5. So it'll be 10 minutes ran on this material. And that way when I pull out the tray from my freeze dryer and we lay it out, you can kind of actually see the color differential, you know, across those 3 different. I'm going to try to empty it so you can kind of even see. But that kind of tell us, like, oh yeah, you can see where it started to, and I'll even turn on my scopes and see about sticking some underneath the scope, even though it's frozen, so we a lot of times see ice crystals in that application. All right, so let's go back to advanced techniques with this last couple minutes that we got. Because being able to revolutionize your rosin application, your rosin room, without the need for a drain or without the need for plumbing is something that's really exclusive to what the resonator is able to provide. Particularly with the XLS Pro. There's just so many upgrades and functions that come out of that stainless model that it's allowed us to really accelerate this. So I'm kind of cheating in making this plastic try to accomplish what it does. And a plastic is really ideal for, you know, dry applications, like even just using the cryogenic application just really elevates your, you know, everything in terms of efficiency. It's live applications that, you know, the gas is imperative. Let me turn that off real quick. That little disturbance there. So I think the last thing I want to cover these last couple minutes is just talking about the advanced technique of basically converting keef to bubble hash. So I don't know if that gentleman's still around, but to really like layer into a different answer to that question, imagine taking and running all your live sift, just buckets of keef, you know, big turkey bags full of keef, right? Stacking it in your freezer. And instead of just pulling out sugar leaf, which is what I just did, I put the sift, because I'm able to collect the sift in 20-minute sessions and get almost a complete extraction. So instead of spending all day long processing, 5 pounds at a time, an hour at a time, getting to maybe 30 pounds in a day of washing with this OG can wash 30 pounds in a day very effectively. Just with the traditional water, ice inside the chamber, agitation, drain to bubble bags, and move on. Whereas, how about I just make sift all day? And then I'll take that sift and let's load it right into the drum. Let's get a 150 micron or whatever size I'm looking for, and I could literally, even a 200 if you want everything, and I could literally just add ice and water and wash my sift, my outboard. So that's the extent of the water use. And now how much am I not using in ice? How much am I not using in labor? What's my throughput? I'm gonna like quadruple your throughput, if not more, right? And you're gonna wash that sift because just adding the ice and water and cleaning the sift instead of cleaning your bio, it's the same efficiency rating. It just goes up exponentially. So water can still be introduced even in a solventless application. Now remember, anytime you use solventless, you're going like with rosin, maybe with a water extraction, maybe with a sift to water extraction, or maybe with a waterless extraction. Because even the XLS does iceless because the nature of the jacketed chamber. I know it's a little bit like drinking like from a fire hose with all the information that we have to throw at you. But that's what's so unique about the resonator. It's it's like a wet dry shop vac and a Swiss Army knife for cannabis.
Cool.
You can grade your bubble hash through different graded bubble bags once you wash it out.
Yes. So we have a drain kit that attaches right to I'm right at the 5-minute mark, so I'm gonna stop it. We have a drain kit that comes right off the bottom of the resonator. In fact, walk right on over here real quick with me, Brian. Let's check this out. So this is built into the XLS. We have a different version. It's all stainless, but this kind of makes the point. This is how we're able to do a water extraction. We just drain like gravity right out of the bottom into traditional, bags. However many bags that you're interested in for your setup.
Yeah.
Same principle. So let's collect this key. Without further ado. First thing I'm going to do is going to get on the low speed.
When it starts to defrost and get wet, is it annoying to clean up?
You want to work with it while it's still frozen.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Now you can see the difference in color here, right? It's actually still, this is just in general, I mean, this was 2 minutes, right? So you can see that I can see a decent clarity here.
It's not too different though, is it?
Nope. And really what that does is that comes out in the press.
Yeah.
Right? And so that for me tells me like, I'm gonna still do my diligence and press them out in 3 different piles. But generally speaking, everybody homogenizes it.
You can definitely see the difference right there.
Yeah, so when I just dumped it on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's actually good. Good call, bro.
Oh yeah.
See the difference there?
Sure.
So that was a 2 minute.
Massive. Yeah.
And then look here. Oh, let me get some more. This is what we did in the 5 minute over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that 2 minute you can definitely see that's going to be great,
Yeah.
right? So that's
2
that
minutes
line.
straight across.
What's your? Yeah, I can see it as soon as I even scoot it. Like you can see the color changing right there. Yep.
Yeah.
So let's find that sweet spot, right? All right, check this out. This is pretty cool. What we like to do, I'm gonna bust out my handy dandy cold plate.
Oh yeah.
Right, we just had this in the freezer. I'm gonna come right on over here.
Oh, you just unscrewed the thing.
Yep, I'm gonna grab my tray. Notice it's cold. I kept it cold in the cold chain. Just put this directly underneath on my cold plate so we can maintain optimal temperatures.
Nice.
Yeah, you can see the color differential in the kind of as I'm merging them. And then also, you see how I am starting to get a little bit of a green hinge? Well, that's because I'm cheating over here. This is me making use of, like guys, it's 70 degrees in here, okay? So this is oxidizing in front of my eyes, and that's why I cheated and put the dry ice in on the bottom, was to try to minimize some of this experience. But the bottom line is we're playing with, fire or cold, playing with cold chain. And so it's critical to work as quick as we can. And so I'm sacrificing some of that color, I'm talking, I'm doing a long demo. So I would obviously prefer to just kind of get right to it. And then I would put some of this oxidation that's occurring in front of our eyes is minimized. And that's really why that stainless steel jacket is a game changer in itself. Because the waterless application of rosin is no joke. So that was from one run, guys. I mean, I should probably reweigh that material, but I don't think that was any more than 2 pounds, maybe 1.5 pounds that went into there. And you can see the color differential right here in the middle, really. And so when I start scooting some of this back, you can see how there's some really good color underneath there. All right, so this goes right into the freeze jar. And tomorrow this will be ready to press. And we'll get some shots out on our story, the highlight reel of what that looks like after we press it. Well, I think that kind of does it for us today, guys. Unless you guys got any more questions, you can fire them off. We'll maybe hover for just one more second. You guys got anything else you wanted to inquire about?
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, you guys, I'm TJ with the Original Resonator. Innovation beyond measure. We're out.